Hey there, I'm Justin Burke. I'm a pastry chef, a queer food writer, a recipe developer, author of the cookbook Potluck Desserts, Joyful Recipes to Share with Pride, and now, apparently, your podcast host, which feels like a very on brand, multi hyphenated millennial move on my part. Welcome to That Eight. So, what is this podcast and why does it exist? After Potluck Desserts came out, something kind of unexpected happened. People started reaching out, not just about the recipes, but about the stories I included, the queer parts, the emotional parts, the food is never just food parts. And I kept hearing some version of the same thing. I didn't know this could be a thing. I didn't know queer and trans stories had a place in food. Or, I've been here the whole time. I just didn't see myself reflected. And that stuck with me. I mean, I could have jumped straight into cookbook number two, kept telling stories just from my own POV. But honestly, I didn't want this to be only about me. I want to hear directly from other queer and trans folks doing work across food about how they got here, what shaped them, and what food actually means in their lives. That's why That Eight exists. That Eight is a queer food podcast sharing stories we don't always hear or don't always get space to tell. The ones that live in the in between moments, behind the scenes, after service, at a potluck, before anyone figured it all out. It's about how we cook, how we eat, and how we connect. And when I say food, I don't just mean what's on the plate. I mean the whole ecosystem, the hands, the minds, the hearts that make food culture what it is. Yes, we're going to talk to chefs, but also front of house folks, food writers, photographers, and stylists, farmers, beverage people, business owners, editors, art directors, cookbook authors, community organizers. The short version is this. If you're queer or trans and food intersects with your life in some way, this show is for you. Here's the thing I kept coming back to while thinking about this podcast. Queer people have always been shaping food culture. We just haven't always been allowed to name it. And a lot of food media still asks us to clean things up, to fit into a neat box, sanitize our stories, to talk about technique before truth, to leave the messy or complicated parts out of it. But that's never the full story. Because how we cook is shaped by how we survived. How we host is shaped by who welcomed us, or really who didn't. And how we eat is shaped by desire, by scarcity, by joy, grief, by our chosen family. Queer food isn't one thing, and I'm not here to define it as one thing. Instead, this show is about showing how fluid it is, how it shifts across identities, places, generations, religions, experiences, how it's constantly being rewritten by us. The conversations here are real ones. They're back and forth, curious, sometimes funny, sometimes tender, sometimes a little messy in the best possible way. We talk about work, but also about the stuff underneath it, the rules we inherited, the traditions we questioned, the moments we decided to do things differently. Because queerness has a way of asking, okay, but what if we didn't do it that way? Season one is already underway, and truly, it's a banger. I mean, you're going to hear from people like Telly Justice, chef owner of Hags in New York City, on queering hospitality and what it really means to cook and lead with intention. Vanessa Parrish, co-founder and executive director of the Queer Food Foundation, on advocacy, visibility, and building something that didn't exist before. We have Adam Roberts, longtime food blogger and author of the amazing novel Food Person, on taking risks, finding your voice, and making something your own. And we have Eddie Massey, owner of Eddie's Grocer and author of the cookbook Keep It Zesty, on finding community as a queer immigrant, creating a safe space that didn't exist, and honoring the past with integrity. And then there's Jaya Saxena, award-winning food writer, on pitching harder stories, writing with care, and discovering queer food for the first time. And that's just the beginning. Also, one of my favorite parts of this show is that every guest brings new names into the room. People across the queer food world you might not know yet, but absolutely should. That's how we build something bigger, stronger, more connected. So whether you're listening while commuting, cooking, doing the dishes, or my personal favorite, hiding in the walk-in for 5 minutes apiece, welcome. If this sounds like your kind of thing, hit subscribe, follow along, and maybe text it to a friend who gets it too. This is That Eight. I'm really glad you're here.